Well, good morning on this frosty Tennessee morning. Happy Friday. Enjoy a little bluegrass while we wait for folks to get logged in. Welcome to the Preacher's Podcast. Good morning as you log in. Welcome to the Preacher's Podcast. Happy Friday. Listen to a little bit of picking this morning before the teaching. Enjoy. I'm Brother David Harrison, coming to you live from my office here at home in East Tennessee. Welcome. Enjoy. Be sure to hit the like button and share and post something in the comments so I know where you're watching from. Good morning, Miss Amber. Hope you're doing good. A little bit of fiddle picking. Dobro. Good old mandolin. Got about 3 or 4 minutes, so we'll enjoy a little picking until everybody gets logged in. Got a few logged in, but not many this morning. We'll start about 3 minutes, so hurry up. Log in. Let me know where you're watching from, who you are. Type something in the comments. Hit the share button, hit the like button. There's a thumb, there's a like, there's another thumb. Well, good morning from East Tennessee. I'm Brother David Harrison. This is the Preacher's Podcast, and we will get started in just a minute. The book of Exodus. Enjoy a little more picking while we wait on the rest of our folks to show up. There's a couple more coming in. It's about time for Leah and Darlene and Joanna and a few others. Gary and David. Hey, Brother Archie, Brother A.P. Johnson, Miss Leah, there you are. I figured you'd show up here in a minute. A few more coming in. Be sure and hit the like button, hit the share button. Post something in the comments. Well, I'll give you a weather update in just about 2 seconds. Good morning, Brother AP. Brother Archie, I think that's your first name. Well, let's cut this off here. Let's see if we can wind this down a little. So we'll cut out the bluegrass and we will get to the regular teaching. Well, good morning. I'm Brother David Harrison. This is the Preacher's Podcast. I'm coming to you live from Kingsport, Tennessee, here in my home office, and we're so glad you're tuned in this morning. There's Miss Carmi. I figured you'd show up here in a minute, and so some of our regulars are now getting logged in. Had a little bluegrass to get us started off. I love picking. Most of you that know me now know that's my favorite. Of course, I like all kinds of music. I like variety. As the saying goes, variety is the spice of life. I like a good college chorale. I like a college choir. I like ladies that sing like with a vibrato, that sings like operetta style. It's got a touch on their life. I like mom and pop singing with a plucking on a guitar and singing mountain style. I love bluegrass. I love southern gospel. I love hymns. I like it all. Hey, Miss Amy. Hope you're doing good down in Kannapolis, North Carolina. Well, hope you're warm and safe and dry wherever you are. We have been through a whirlwind as far as weather this week. We started out Monday, and all the weather reports were pointing toward this catastrophic storm that was going to come through, and it is catastrophic to some areas. I believe the target point is like Charlotte, North Carolina, and Greenville, South Carolina. You guys are going to get inundated with ice, sleet, a little bit of snow. Hey, Chris, hope you're doing good. Hey, Sid, good to see you this morning. So that's kind of the target area, is in the upstate South Carolina, lower part of North Carolina. You guys are going to be inundated with ice and sleet and a little bit of snow mixture, freezing rain. We were supposed to Monday get as much as 18 inches of snow. Then it went to snow, turning to ice, turning back to snow, possibly 6 to 8 inches. Then it went down to the last day or so to 3 to 4 inches of ice, snow and ice, and then a little bit of rain on top of it, and then cold coming in behind it. And as of this morning, it's almost unbelievable, but it's just right here where I'm at. I'm in Kingsport, Tri-Cities, Johnson City, Kingsport, and Bristol, right up the 81 corridor, coming from down toward Chattanooga, down around Knoxville, coming up the 81 corridor, like you're going up to Bristol. There's a little spot up through there. If I go a few miles to the east, it's going to be ice. If I go a few miles to the west, it's going to be ice. If I go a few miles to the north, hey, Brother Greg, it's going to be snow and ice. But right here where we're at, unless something changes, they're saying now, late tomorrow afternoon, we're going to get rain. Rain tomorrow night, rain Sunday. We were supposed to be not even in the lower 30s on Sunday. Now they're talking high 45. So we're going to miss it right here where I'm at, just a little streak. If you look on the map, it's like everything's covered in ice and snow. And just a little bubble up to the northeastern part of Tennessee is a little stretch where the warm air is coming overhead, keeping the temperatures warm, and the swirling around is coming. We're going to get moisture, but it looks like it's going to be in the form of rain. So we'll get to go to church Sunday, looks like. And I'm not going to need to hook up a generator or do nothing, because I don't think, unless we have some high winds and the rain, unless a tree knocks a power line down, we should be good to go. But now everybody around us, north, south, and east, well, not south, but north and west and east, is going to be inundated and slammed. Ohio is going to get slammed. You guys are going to get slammed with snow and some ice. But all around me is going to be ice and snow. But right here where I'm at, right here on the west side of the Smokies. I'm right here at the Smokies. I'm in the mountains, but I'm on the west side, and that Appalachian wedge is coming around on the east side and bringing that cold air and moisture in. But right here where we're at, there's just a little stretch. It's probably not 25, 30 feet wide. Just a little stretch up north and south, running from southwest to northeast, just like an angle. That little stretch is where I live. And unless we may get a little snow at the end, as it turns over and the cold air comes in. But what we had the first of the week till now has been nothing but a transition to all upset and excited to now there's nothing but rain. So I'm kind of prepared for nothing. But anyways, always good. Hey, Miss Carol, hope you're doing good. So anyway, for you, Darlene, good to see you. So for you that are in the place that's going to get a lot of ice and snow, I'm praying for you. And I hope that you'll be safe and be careful. I know many of you are probably looking to expect your power to be out for a day or two. And so I hope that it's not very inconvenient. I hope you guys can keep yourselves warm and stay safe. Most of all, safe. And we'll be praying for you and keep praying for us. Hey, Brother Thomas Johnson. They're predicting 7 inches there where you're at in Missouri. I know. I figured just to the west of me and to the east of me, to the north of me. But just if you'll see it, you look on the map, there'll be a little stretch of green about 20, 30, 40 miles wide from southwest to northeast, running right up through northeast Tennessee. And that's where I live. And it's going to be rain. So I'm going to enjoy just a wet weekend. And I'm going to stay in. I've got my generator in the garage. I've got all my cords and everything ready. I've got gas, but I'm not going to worry because I wasn't worried anyway, but I was trying to prepare, but I really don't think I'm having anything to worry about now as far as preparing. I'll have everything ready if it does change, and it can change at the last minute. But right now it looks like the warm air is going to keep us from having any ice. Well, here we are at the weekend. Another Friday. This week has gone by so quick. I don't know where in the world the week has gone. Pray for me this morning. I'm not feeling so good, and that's not strange, because I have a lot of days like that. I didn't sleep last night again. I was up about 5. I just can't seem to get my head together where I can rest. I guess because I got so much on my mind, and I get in the bed and I sleep for a couple hours, and then I sit there and look at the clock, and I just get up. Hey, is that Reva? Reva Beatty? Good to see you, Reva. I don't know. I haven't seen you on here before, so thank you for being on the podcast. Well, let's get to the book of Exodus. We stopped yesterday in Exodus, chapter number 10. So we're dealing with this time that God is leading Moses to try to set Israel free from Egyptian bondage. And hey, Tammy Sluice, good to see you. Tammy Weiniger Sluice, long time, hope you're doing well. You and your family, good to see you on the podcast this morning. Be safe over this weekend. I pray that you will. Moses is appearing before Pharaoh. Now, this will be like his 7th or 8th miracle. He's appeared before Moses before Pharaoh 7 or 8 times. So now in verse number 4 is where we'll pick up. We left yesterday. And so Moses is telling Pharaoh again, hey, Brother Terry, or Sister Terry. So I did that again this morning. Hey, sis, I'm sorry. Good to see you on here. Thank you for tuning in. So here in verse 4, Moses is before Pharaoh and he says, let my people go. And if you refuse to let them go, he said, tomorrow I'm going to bring the locusts in on you. So verse 5, so they cover the face of the earth, that one cannot be able to see the earth. They shall eat the residue which is escaped, which remain to you from the hail. They shall eat every tree which groweth for you out of the field. He says, the next thing's going to be the locusts. Whatever's been left over from the hailstorm, whatever's left standing, the locust is going to devour it. So Pharaoh, I'm asking you again to let my people go. I'm here representing Jehovah. So do your business, make the demand, get forth the decree, and let us go. So verse 6, he said, and they're going to fill the houses, the locusts are going to be in the houses, the servants, all the Egyptians, which neither thy fathers nor thy fathers' fathers have seen, since the day they were upon the earth unto this day. And he turned himself and went out from Pharaoh. He said, there's going to be locusts on the earth like you've not seen in your lifetime, nor in your fathers or your fathers' fathers. So he's absolutely, so Reva, you've been following my son ever since the tent revival in Rogersville. Wow. Well, good to see you. I probably remember you. I don't know if I've met you or not, but thank you for following my son. And that means a lot to me. God's using him in a mighty way. So I hope that you'll continue to pray for him. He's not feeling well this week, and so say a prayer for him. Verse 7, and Pharaoh's servant said to him, how long shall this man be a snare? Claudia, good to see you. So the servants of Pharaoh looked at him and said, how long is this man going to be a snare to us? He said, let him go. He said, you keep on turning down Moses' offer, and you won't let the people go. He said, all this stuff's happening because you won't let them go. He said, let them go. Even his servants has got more sense than Pharaoh does. And they turned to Pharaoh and said, let them go, that they may serve the Lord their God. Knowest thou not yet Egypt is destroyed? He said, hadn't you figured it out yet that Egypt is done for if you don't let them go? He said, all these lice and hailstorms and flies and water turned up. He said, we've seen everything. The frogs. And he said, don't you understand, Pharaoh? Egypt is done if you don't let them go. Don't you believe them yet? So even the servants have got some reasoning. So we come to verse 8. So now here comes to another situation I want to deal with today. The third compromise. Now, you want to write them down because these are very important. While Moses is dealing with Pharaoh and God's using these plagues to try to harden Pharaoh's heart. Remember yesterday I told you there were two purposes for the plagues. One was to give Pharaoh a chance to repent and to prove to Pharaoh that he was Jehovah God, who he says he was. And the second reason was to show the people of Israel that Jehovah, if he could take care of them and provide for them and protect them in the midst of Egypt in bondage, while all the Egyptians are suffering the plagues of God, if God can take care of them in a strange land while he's judging the land, then God can take care of them once they're delivered and find themselves in the wilderness wandering on their way to the promised land. So God's trying to prove to his people and prove to Pharaoh who he is, and he's giving Pharaoh a chance. Because I said yesterday that God could have delivered Israel without any problem. Hey, Francis, hope you're doing well. He could have said, okay, Israel, you're free. Get out of here by the power of his word. And nothing would have happened, but just they had gone, and Egypt would have been defenseless and helpless. But yet somebody would have risen up and said, well, God, that wasn't fair. You judged Pharaoh and didn't give him a chance. So God takes away all the excuses of anyone to point a finger at God and say, God, you're not fair because you didn't give Pharaoh a chance. So God's given Pharaoh plenty of chances here and say, look, do right and let my people go. But God told Moses in the beginning that he's going to harden his heart, and I'm going to harden his heart even more. I'm going to twist is what the word really means. I'm going to twist it and wring him out till he comes to the knowledge that he's wicked and I'm Jehovah and he cannot stand against me. So now we come to verse number 8 in the third compromise. I'm going to read this compromise and I'll go back over the other two and then give you the fourth one, because the fourth one's here just in a couple verses. So there's four compromises that Pharaoh offers Moses. So here in verse number 8 is the third one. So Moses and Aaron were brought back again to Pharaoh. So Pharaoh begged them to come back. So they come back to appear before Pharaoh. He says to them, this is his third compromise, he said, go serve the Lord your God like you asked me. Go ahead and go make a sacrifice. But he said, who's going to go? He said, you can go out there and do what you asked me to do to start with, but who's going to go? Verse 9. And Moses says, we're going to go with our young and with our old, with our sons or their daughters, with our flocks, with our herds, for we must hold a feast in the Lord. Everything we got, beast and man, is all going to go to the wilderness to make a sacrifice to God. So now let's write them down. If you got a pen and paper, write them down, or you can come back and listen to it again. The first compromise was back in chapter 8 and verse 25. Back in chapter 8 and verse 25, the first compromise was, he said, go sacrifice in the land. He said, but go sacrifice, but do it here in Egypt. So Moses had requested to go 3 days into the wilderness and make a sacrifice to their God. And hey, Brother Gary, good to see you on here. So Pharaoh says, go ahead and go, but stay in the land here. Don't go to the wilderness. So the first compromise is, you can sacrifice, but you can't go far away. 3 days away in the wilderness. Stay here in Egypt. The second compromise is in chapter 8, verse 28. The second compromise is, he said, go in the wilderness, but he said, don't go very far. Don't go 3 days away. Just don't go very far. So the first one is stay here in the land. But he requested to go 3 days. Now, I'm really not totally sure why the 3 days, except that the 3 days gives them plenty of distance away, that if something happens, they're a 3 days journey. That gives them far enough away that they could escape. But 3 days assures them that Egypt and the inhabitants of Egypt will not see what they do. And that would have been abomination in the eyes of the Egyptians. and would have caused them possibly to be violent more so against the Israelites. So 3 days was basically where they had dwelt 3 days in Goshen. They wanted to get further away from where they dwelt in Goshen and go into the wilderness and be far enough away that they would be surrounded by any of the inhabitants of Egypt. So but Pharaoh says, do it, but stay here in Egypt. And then the second compromise, okay, you can go out of Egypt to the wilderness, but don't go that far. Stay close. All of these are a type of what the devil does to the church today. You can do your religious deeds, just don't get out of Egypt. Don't turn loose of Egypt. Just get out of this thing, what you want to get out of it. Worship your God and do all the religious deeds you want to do, but just stay connected to Egypt. Don't leave Egypt. And there's a whole lot of Christians that are going to church every Sunday sitting on a pew, but they're still in Egypt. And then the second compromise, where many Christians are, is that, okay, you can go, just don't go too far. And that's where the average Christian is. They are trying to do something that appears to be religious to soothe their conscience and to appease God, appease their conscience, and make everybody think they're really spiritual. But the devil says, just don't take it too far. Don't get so fanatical about this. You know, like your family says when they say, you got to go to church 3 times a week. You got to go Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, Sunday school. You got to go to revival meeting. You got to be there all the time. I mean, I understand going to church, but you got to go all the time. That's where your family, that's where the world looks at us. I understand you like to go to church, but you got to go all the time. You live at church. And that's what they accuse us of. That's what the devil tries to do. Go ahead and do your religious stuff. Just don't go too far. Don't become such a fanatic about this thing. You know, go out and drink a drink with the boys and play a little pool and buy you some lottery tickets and go out and dance with somebody else's wife. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Just go out and do it. Just don't go so far with this religion stuff. And that's what Pharaoh's saying to Moses. Do your deed, do your religious deeds, but just don't leave Egypt. And if you do leave Egypt, don't go too far. So we come to the third one now in chapter 10, verse number 8. He said, who's going to go? Go ahead and go to the, who's going to go? And Moses says, everybody, man, beast, everybody, boy, girl, daughter, daddy, grandpa, our dogs, cats, animals, cows, sheep. We're taking everything, everybody. We're all going to worship. Notice in verse number 10, he said, let the Lord be so with you as I'll let you go, and your little ones look to it, for evil is before you, but not so. Go now, ye that are men, and serve the Lord, for that ye did desire. And they were driven out from Pharaoh's presence. Pharaoh said, no way, Jose. You take the men and you go do what you got to do, but you don't take nobody else. So there's another compromise. And there, the devil, the same thing. All right, you know, y'all go, some of you men, it's okay. You go to church and you do your thing, but don't take everybody. Don't make your kids go to youth night. Don't put your kids in Sunday school. Don't take your kids to activities. Don't make your wife go to all these ladies' meetings. I mean, you know, you guys, I understand you trying to put on a good front in front of your family and your workers at work. You're trying to be a religious man. Do all that, guys, but just don't take your family. There's a whole lot of people that's been convinced by the devil to do something, but just leave your family. Yeah, Carmi, I've been told the same thing. I was a nut. I was a nutcase. I was taking this thing too far. I was becoming a fanatic. You hear it all the time. When I got saved as a young boy, my daddy was a drunk, and he was a violent man. When he was sober, he was a good man, but when he was drinking, he was violent. My mama was saved, and she was a teenager, got saved in a youth meeting, and she kept us in church. She married a lost man, the bad boy thing, you know. She fell in love with my daddy. He was a motorcycle guy, and he was just a bad boy image, and she fell in love with him, got married. She married him. It wasn't God's will, but nonetheless, she married him, and once she married him, she stayed with him. She committed. And my mama kept us in church, and everything was okay. We was all in church, and me and my brother and sister sung, and I played music from the time I was about 7, and we were in church my whole life. Got saved when I was a young boy, and I was always in church and serving God. But when I surrendered to preach And me and my wife came back from that meeting where God called me to preach. And we started changing. God started changing our standards, and we got real serious about serving God. And we got to missing some family activities. We couldn't be there every Sunday to eat with Mama like we had in the past because I was pastoring. And I had to pastor, and I couldn't get down there in time enough to eat because I lived about an hour away from Mama. So we'd have to go down to other times, and then sometimes I was in meetings, or sometimes I had stuff at the church and I couldn't be with all the family gatherings. And my family turned on me like a snake turns on you walking through the woods and hisses and wants to snap at you. And then they started saying, we go down just for a fellowship with a family, Thanksgiving or Christmas. I was just going to eat turkey. I was just going to see my mama and my family. And before we leave, some of the family started saying, well, you and your wife just think y'all better than anybody else. So we ain't to said a word. We're just there to eat turkey and have a good time and eat ice cream. They started, you just think you better now that you're a preacher. Now you're a preacher, and everybody calls you pastor, and you got a nice car, live in a nice house, and you preaching to all these people, and everybody thinks you just think you better than we are. Your wife dressing all dressed up, and you come in here with your suit on, you think you better than that. And I ain't said a word. I was just there to eat, and see my mom and see my family. But we started getting serious with God, and our priorities changed. And the family attacked us like a mangy dog. And we just had to accept it and go on. It's still that way. They still family and people that we were close to at one time that still look down on us. And without saying a word, if you asked them and get them in a conversation, it would be, well, my daddy just thinks he's better, or my mama, or my brother, or David, he's my cousin, or my uncle, or my aunt, or whatever. Whoever the family is, or even somebody's not, they just think they better. They just think they better than anybody else. They too good to be around us. And it just aggravates the hell out of me. And my wife and I had to get to the place where we just got hard to that and just said, whatever you want to say, whatever you want to think, that's between you and God. But I didn't attack it, and I didn't defend it. I've just done right all these years the best I know how. It is convicted. It's jealousy. Conviction, because light and darkness don't mix. But that's what Pharaoh's doing with Moses. You men can go, but don't you take your whole family. And I want to say this, and I'm going to make some of you nervous, because I know the home is in trouble. The home in America is in trouble. And there's no exception in the church. Homes in the church are in trouble. As goes the home, so goes the nation. As goes the home, so goes the church. The reason our churches are in such a fix is because our nation's in such a fix, because our homes are in such a fix. And I'm telling you this morning, the biggest thing that the world don't understand, and this is happening, and I see this all the time, there is such a pull from Satan to convince every mother and every father that you don't need to get your whole family involved in serving God the way that you think you ought to serve God. You ought not push your kids to live right, dress right. You ought to let your kids do what everybody else is doing. There ain't nothing wrong with them going out and going to a dance. There ain't nothing wrong with them going out and dressing and showing their body. There ain't nothing wrong with them going to a rock concert and getting drunk with the boys. There ain't nothing wrong with them going out and living up on the tent. That's just growing up in child. No, it ain't. No, if you're a saved child of God, you're supposed to be living right and separated from the world. It's not right to let your kids participate in those things and say to them, I'll tell you how it started. I'll tell you how I know the priorities. You taught your kids this, and you didn't really know you was teaching them this. Your kids would come to you on a Friday or Saturday night, and they're going to go out with some of their friends and go to the mall, and go to a movie and go out and eat and go shopping and walk around the mall and see the boys and see the girls. So they say, Mom, Dad, can I have some money? I'm going out tonight with my friends. We're going to go get something to eat and go to a movie, and we're going to go to the mall and walk around. Can I have some money? And your dad will roll out his pocketbook and say, here's a 10 spot, here's a 20 spot. Back used to give him $5 or a couple dollars would be enough to give him something to eat and get in movies. But now you got to give him a 10 spot or a 20 spot, and you think nothing about it. But you get to church on Sunday, and your kid comes to you and says, Daddy, we're taking up a special offering in Sunday school this morning for the missionaries. Can I have some money? Let me see if I got some change here. Let me see if I got $1 bill you can give. You see what you just did? You taught your kid that $20 at the movies and the mall is no big thing. When it comes to giving to God's work, a few quarters or dollars, fine. You're teaching them priorities. They asked, Dad, will you have to go to church Sunday night to the youth meeting? The kids are getting together at so-and-so's house and having a party. Can't I go? And you say to them, I know, it's a youth thing. Yeah, you go ahead. Me and Mom will go to church and we'll see you when we get back. You've just told them that partying with their friends is more important than going to youth group. Then that same mom and daddy, 10 years later, when their daughter's pregnant or their son's got a girl pregnant, or they're drinking or on drugs, or they've left home and they're running rebel rousing for the devil, and you come to church crying and say, pray for my boy, pray for my girl. I don't know where I went wrong, where we messed up. I'll tell you where you messed up. You never had family altar. Come on now, somebody say amen. I know this ain't teaching, this is preaching, I'm meddling. But you never had family altar one time. You never got your family together, sat down together and prayed at your meal and prayed over the missionary for the day and prayed over your pastor. Every time me and my wife have lunch here at the house, we pray for our missionary of the day. Our church gives out, and I've got it here. I've got it right here in our Sunday bulletin. Our Sunday bulletin as well as our Wednesday night prayer list. We've got our missionaries. Let's see where they are. Right there they are. There's the list of missionaries for the week, for Sunday through Saturday. So today when my wife and I have lunch, we'll read Saturday's missionary, and I'll pray for Saturday's missionary. I pray for my pastor every day at lunch. I pray for him every night when I go to bed. I pray for our missionaries. Me and my wife, we don't have any kids at home now, but we still pray and have family altar, like we always do every night before we go to bed. Before we close our eyes in bed, we lay in bed, hold hands, and we pray. And sometimes I'm praying 15, 20 minutes before I close my eyes to go to sleep. We pray. I have a whole list of people I pray for every night. I pray every morning. I pray at lunch 3 times a day. And you cannot raise your family in a double standard and teach to them that the things of the world is more important than church, then wonder why when your kids get on their own, they don't want to go to church. Why now we're in a day where 70 to 80% of young people after they get out of church don't go back to church. If they do, it's usually when they're 30 or older before they come back. Why? Because we're not making church a priority. And if it is a priority, we're forcing them but not teaching them to fall in love with Jesus and the church. We're making them and they resist it and they get angry about it. I'm going to tell you, it's absolutely a shame. Yes, we all failed when we were young, but I did try. I didn't have a daddy show me how to be a dad. My dad was a drunk. He was abusive. My kids have never seen me come home drunk. They've never heard me get to cussing and beating up mama and beating the kids. I didn't do it. They've never seen me walk around the house without my clothes on. My kids have never seen me without a t-shirt on. The least they've ever seen me in was a pair of pajamas and a t-shirt. I've never walked around. I don't have a pair of shorts to my name. Now, that's not making me more spiritual than you are, but God convicted me that long time ago. I don't expose my body to nobody but my wife. I try to live modest everywhere I'm at. My kids, my son, my daughters have never seen me without my shirt. They've never seen my bare chest. I don't go outside and ride my lawnmower with no shirt on and a pair of Bermuda shorts on showing my old white legs. I wouldn't do it. Beside the fact that I'm a preacher, but I'm a Christian before I'm a preacher. Now, I've got off on dress codes, and I didn't mean to do that this morning. I'm just telling you that's me personally. God changed me. My wife doesn't own a pair of pants. She don't wear pants. That don't make you less spiritual than her. That's just the conviction God put in us. When I go to church, I put a suit on. Every time I go in on Wednesday night, old Brother Larry, he's a good friend of mine at the church there. He's a businessman. He's about my age, a little bit older. And he says, you always dress so sharp. And I always tell him thank you. But I don't go into the reason why. But when I go to church, I put my best on. Of course, I've preached for 50 years. And as a preacher, I would never get in a pulpit and preach without a suit or a tie on. Now, I've done youth camps. But even in youth camps, I've always had at least a shirt and a tie. I've been in some places where out with the young men in youth camp in the afternoon after an activity. Maybe I'd have on a nice shirt with no tie, but I would always have pants on and nice slacks, and sometimes jeans, but I would never get up in the pulpit and preach a meeting without a suit and tie on, just because that's my conviction. That's not necessarily your conviction, but it's mine. But my kids have seen that. Now, I don't know what my kids think of me. I hope they respect me. They may think I'm the meanest man in the whole world. They may think I'm crazy. I guess I know some of my kids think I've Looney Tunes. But I've been like this ever since God changed us, when God called me to preach. My wife and I, we decided we'd surrender everything to God. Now, the devil's offered us compromises. I had preachers when I first started preaching. I was meaner than a junkyard dog. I was just young. I shot everything that wiggled. And I had a lot of preachers came to me and said, if you would just calm down and quit preaching on all these things and quit being so hard on stuff and preaching so hard on sin, you'll get in some big churches. And I looked at him and laughed. I said, I'm not changing the message just to get in a big church. I don't care about big churches. I'm just going to preach where God opens the doors. Now, I preached in big churches. But when I did, you know what I did? I preached the Word of God no matter who was there. I've had times that I preached stuff and I'd see people come in the door and I knew what they were doing. I had a man used to visit my church, first church I pastored. He's one of the richest men in our town. And he liked me for some reason. He started visiting our church. He never joined, but he'd come every Sunday, sit on the back row. He was a widower, and he was dating he's like in his early 60s. And he was dating like a 30-year-old mud wrestler. I'm not lying. I'm not exaggerating. She was a blonde bombshell. She was older than I was. I was in my early 20s. She was about 5 years older than I was, and she was very attractive. She was blonde, and she was a mud wrestler. That's what she had done. She was a mud wrestler. So, she was built like a lot of those women are. And he was dating her, and they were doing more than dating. When I'd be invited to his house for a meal, and she was always there. And so I knew what was going on. And so I was once, and every Sunday after he preached, I'd be at the back door shaking hands, and he'd always give me one of them Baptist handshakes with a $50 or $100 bill in it. And I always thanked him. He'd invite me to his house, and I'd be the only preacher there. And it would be the guy that started the Food Line food chains. That guy that started those, he'd invite him. The county lawyers, the city lawyers, the head of the state patrol, the sheriff, the police chief. Everybody that was somebody in our town and county would be at those luncheons at his house. And that 30-year-old mud wrestler would be there, and she'd be up and serve with his maid. He had maids and cooks that worked for him. And I'd be the only preacher there. And after we'd get through eating, he'd always say, Reverend, stand up and give us something for a little while on prophecy. He liked Bible prophecy. Well, I'd get up and say, I don't know much about prophecy, but I know Jesus saved me, and I'd preach the gospel. And he liked me. But one Sunday, God had burdened me to preach a message, and it was about that kind of lifestyle of living with people and fornication and adultery and trying to live a double standard. And I saw him come in. It was like 10 after 11. He wasn't there, and I said, "Shoo, I missed this. He's not going to be here today, so I won't feel bad about preaching this." And I saw him come in. And as soon as he come in, my heart sunk, and I said, "God, please don't make me preach this today. Please don't." And I heard all these voices say, if you'll just back down and not preach so hard, you'll get a lot more success, and you'll get a lot more men support you, and you'll get in a lot of bigger churches. But I sat there, and God says, "You better preach what I told you to preach." So I got up and let it rip. And the more I preached, the madder he got. And the funny thing was, when he came to church, she would come with him, but they wouldn't come together. He'd sit on one side of the church, and she'd sit on the other. And I asked her one time, I said, "When I come to your house, y'all are together, and I see you out y'all eating together in the restaurants, see you out in town. But when you come to church, you come in separate cars, and you sit on separate sides of the church. Why?" He said, "I don't want God to see us together." I said, "What?" He said, "When I go to church, I don't want God to see us in church together." I said, "You think God just see?" He thought really God only cared about when they were at church, that God couldn't see him outside of church when he come to church. He didn't want God to see them together. He thought he was fooling God by them coming separate cars to church and sitting in separate places. And it was hilarious. But I preached that morning, and he got mad. When I went back to shake hands, he looked at me, didn't say nothing, shook my hand, and for the first time, there wasn't a Baptist handshake. There wasn't no $50 bill or $100 bill in it. And the next morning, I got a call from one of my deacons. He said, "It started." He said, "All in the restaurant this morning," said, "Your name's coming up everywhere." And guess who started it? So I went to his office. And I called him by his name, and I said, sounds like you're talking about me after yesterday. And I said, I don't really appreciate it. I said, I come to get it straightened out today. He said, you don't know who I am. He said, I'm on every bank board. He said, I know you're going to need to build buildings. He said, you're a sharp young preacher. He said, you're probably the greatest preacher in the county. He said, I like you. And he said, you're going to need to borrow money. He said, I can get you anything you need. He said, I can get any kind of loan approved. I can get your permits approved. He said, I sit on every board. He said, everybody knows me first name. He said, I'm one of the wealthiest men in this county. He said, I can help you go places. But he said, you got to stop doing that kind of stuff, preaching like that. And I rose up from my chair. I was so mad. It was God that I didn't lose my temper in a real mad way and say things I shouldn't have said. But I got up from my chair and put my hands on his desk like this and leaned over and looked him in his eyeballs just like I'm looking at you. And I said, you hear me and you hear me well. This country preacher ain't for sale. Today or no time never. You're not buying me out. Money or no money, permits or no permits, building program or no building program. I'm not selling out for you or nobody. God bless you, I'm gone. And I left. And I never talked to him again. But I had a chance to compromise. And so many preachers have compromised, and so many Christians have compromised because Pharaoh makes a good argument. Just, you guys go ahead and be religious. Just don't get your family so serious. Let your wife do her thing. Let your kids do their thing. You just don't make your family live right. And it's a compromise that many folks have bid. Either stay in Egypt, go ahead and do your religion, but just stay in Egypt. And if you got to go, you go, but just don't go too far. But you go by yourself. Don't you take anybody with you. So I know I'm right, Brother Gary. I know I am. I know folks ain't liking this, and they won't like it, but I know I'm right. So verse number 10. So he said, well, verse number 12, verse 12. And the Lord said to Moses, stretch out thy hand over Egypt for the locusts. They be come upon the land of Egypt and eat every herb of the land, even all that the hail hath left. And Moses stretched forth his rod over the land of Egypt. And the Lord brought east wind upon the land all that day and all that night. And when it was morning, the east wind brought the locusts. The locusts went up over the land of Egypt and rested all the coast of Egypt. Very grievous were they. Before them there was no such locusts as they, neither after them such shall be such. For they covered the face of the whole earth so that the land was darkened. They covered the whole earth. It's like the sun was shut off. Hey, Marion. Thank you, Brother Greg. It's like the sun was got so many locusts. I was in the Philippines one time, and there was a infestation of locusts hit where I was at in the Philippines. Traffic was backed up. The locusts were so thick, you couldn't hardly drive. They were hitting the windshield, and you looked up in the sky was black. When you rolled down your window, you could hear them zzz, and those Filipinos were catching them. And they were cooking them and selling them by the bag. I said, why are y'all eating these locusts? And the Filipino says, they eat our food, so we eat them. We get back at the locusts. They eat our wheat, we eat them. They eat our rice, we eat them. So they were eating the locusts. But it was as black as soot. I've seen what locusts can do. Destroy entire fields, trees, strip the leaves off of trees, eat the grass off the ground, eat every stalk of wheat, corn. Locusts can destroy a nation. So verse 15, it covered the face of the earth. The land was darkened. They ate every herb, all the fruit of the trees. There remained not any green thing in the trees, the herbs of the field, through all the land of Egypt. So the locust is terrible, but he didn't touch Israel. Verse 16, Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron in haste. So now he's getting serious. He calls in haste, somebody go get Moses and Aaron, get back here. We got to do something. And it says, I've sinned against the Lord. Pharaoh's confessing again. I've sinned against the Lord your God and against you. Now therefore forgive, I pray thee, my sin only this once, and entreat the Lord your God, that he may take away from me this death only. And he went out from Pharaoh and entreated the Lord. And the Lord turned a mighty strong west wind, which took away the locusts and cast them into the Red Sea. There remained not one locust in the coast of Egypt. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, so he would not let the children of Israel go. So there again, he begs for relief. He gets relief, but he won't let them go. Compromise number 4 in verse number 21. And the Lord said to Moses, stretch out thine hand to heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt. Have you ever been in a place so dark you could feel it? Boy, I've been there. I've been in foreign countries, third world countries. I got off the plane in one country I was going to, and I ain't going to name the country. But when I got off the plane, the darkness was so thick. The darkness was so thick. I could absolutely feel it. It was so heavy, demonic. This is the kind of darkness God's bringing to Egypt. He said, verse 22, and Moses stretched his hand toward heaven. There was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt for 3 days. You can see darkness when something happens and the sun's covered up, when there's an eclipse. The moon and the sun's covered up, and for a while there's darkness in the middle of the day. And I've been at night when there's an eclipse and it's pitch darkness. I went in a cave one time in the caverns, Linville Caverns, and got way back in the mountain underneath all the rock, about a half a mile down the mountain. And the guide said, now you get up and stand with somebody and don't move, don't be scared. We're going to turn the lights out just for a little bit so you can see what darkness is. And they turned the light out. My brother was with me. We'd been in a tent meeting, and the caverns were near where the tent was at. So we turned the lights out, and when he did, my brother shouted right beside me, scared everybody half dead. My brother went, woo-hoo! And the guy turned the light back on. He said, what's the matter? Don't be scared. My brother said, I ain't scared. He said, I'm just praising God. And somebody said, what you shouting about in the darkness? He said, I'm glad I ain't going to hell. It's dark. You couldn't see. The man said, put your hand in front of your face. You couldn't see your hand in front of your face. It was total darkness. Even the fish that swam in the stream back in the caverns were blinded. They'd stayed in darkness so long that a film had come over their eyes and they couldn't see. Total darkness. And for 3 days. 3 days, the darkness. Notice what happened in verse 24. Pharaoh comes up with another compromise. He called Moses and said, okay, go serve the Lord. This is enough. Go serve the Lord, but let your flocks and your herds be stayed. But you and your little ones go also with you. So the first compromise was, go ahead and do your religious deed, but stay in Egypt. The second one was, you can go, but don't go too far. The third one was, okay, men, you men can go worship, but don't take anything with you or anybody. And finally, the fourth one was, okay, all you human beings can go, moms, dads, and kids, all y'all can go, but you can't take your stuff with you, animals. You can't take anything to sacrifice. Just go yourself, but you can't take any animals. Fourth compromise. That touches the finances, the pocketbook, and the sacrificial giving. Do you not think Satan has tricked the church into this fourth compromise? Go ahead and go to church and sing the songs, and you can even be faithful if you want to. But all this stuff about giving and supporting missionaries and giving a tithe and offering to the church, you know you need that money to pay for a new bass boat. Why, you know your wife wants them 3 new pair of shoes. Why, you know you want that little red sports car you've been looking at. Why, you know y'all want to go on that other vacation besides your normal vacation. Y'all want to take off and go out west for, you know you want to buy that new 75-inch TV. Why, you know. You go ahead, you and your family do your religious stuff, but don't you start getting crazy about this thing of sacrificing. God says, I present you therefore by the mercy of God that you present your bodies a living sacrifice. You've done nothing for God until you sacrifice yourself. And you've not given anything to God until you've given over and above what he asked for. He said the tithes belongs to the Lord. He said, bring your tithes and offerings into the storehouse. If I've seen people, I've seen my treasurer come to me and wouldn't let me see who it was, but showed me envelopes with $37.23. Somebody paid their tithe to the penny. God's blessed them with a job and things and took care of them. And they get their little paycheck and they give their tithe right to the penny. Don't give no more than what God asked for. Just give that tithe, that 10% to the penny. If you got a check of $375.23, just give that $35.73. Don't you give any extra. Just give the tithe. That belongs to the Lord. The rest of it's yours. But then a lot of people, they make it look like they're giving. They stick that envelope out there so everybody can see it, and everybody thinks, oh, they're really a big giver. Look at it, and it's a $5 bill. Why, some of you tip your waitress more than you tip God. You give a waitress more than you tithe to the church. Some of y'all go and get you a big meal and you'll give a good waiter or waitress a good $10, $5, $10 tip, and you won't even give God that much on a Sunday morning. I know this is not what I plan to preach this morning. I plan just to teach and go verse by verse, but I can't help it. We're reading in chapter 10 of Exodus, and we're around verse number 24 right now, Miss Amy. Chapter 10, verse 24 of Exodus. We've been in chapter 10 all morning. Hey, Brother Gene. I mean, you can't talk about giving until you've given over and above what God asked for. Do you know God could have asked for 90%, but he only asked for 10. That's the law. You say, well, that's Old Testament. That's the Jews. That's Moses' law. No, I'm here to tell you different. Before Moses ever came along, before the Jews was ever a nation, when Abraham come back from battle, he paid tithes to Melchizedek, the king of Salem. He was tithing before there was ever a Jewish nation. Tithing's always been what God asked for. That's just because God's been good to us. We owe him at least a tenth. That's the law. That's just out of the law of giving, the law of owing to God our thanks and gratitude. But we've not started. You haven't given us. If I give my tithes, you didn't give nothing. You owe that. You owe God a tithe. You didn't give nothing till you give above your tithes. My wife and I, we pay our tithes off everything that comes in. Somebody gives me a check, if I get a check in the mail, if I get a support check, or somebody gives me a check, or if I make profit off my books, whatever, I pay tithes and always pay more than what my tithes is. So I give over and above my tithes. And then my wife and I made a commitment how much we give, at least this much every month, to Faith Promise Missions. So when I write out my tithe, when I give my tithing envelope, once a month I put my tithes in it, which is my tithes plus some. And then I add my mission offering for the month, which is quite a bit. And so I give more in my tithes and offerings than I used to make when I was working full time in a week. And I'm not bragging, and I'm retired now, but I'm just saying we just give. And I watch God do what he did this week. When I got to church Wednesday night, we've been taking up another's offerings at church to give to 2 ministries. Others' offerings, December and January, and so every time I go to church on Wednesday, I've been putting in money and offering for others' offering. And I've given quite a bit in the last 6 or 7 weeks. This is the last couple of weeks we can give. So I put it in every Wednesday night, put an envelope and stick it in an offering plate. And it goes just to the others' offerings to give to these 2 children's homes. We support them at the church. And so we're doing something special. And I watch God, I give. I had a young man I helped this week that his dad was a pastor friend of mine. I ordained him and helped him start the church that he pastored for years. And the young man's having a hard time, and he's really financially struggling. And I tried to help him out a little bit financially, and I sent some money to him the first of the week, trying to help him. I mean, it wasn't a lot, not by standards of a lot of people, it wasn't hundreds, but it was something to help him get through this week. And that day, God sent a big check in from somebody that's never sent me a check in their life. A man from 4 states away, 5 states away in the middle of the country. And I'm just telling you, God does it all the time. I'll give. God will tell me, I'll be in a restaurant. God will tell me to buy somebody's lunch. I don't have a clue who they are. God said, you pay for their meal, and I'll pay for it. There'll be somebody come to our church visiting, a missionary or something, and God will tell me, I'll go get my billfold, and I'll have a $20 bill or a $50 bill. Sometimes I'll have a $100 bill stuck back. God say, give that to that missionary. I'll go shake their hand and give it to them. It'll be the last money I got in my pocket. And before 24 hours passes, I'll get the money back. Most of the time, 5, 10, 20 times over. I'm just telling you, you can't outgive God, and you're right, Carmi. People don't understand that. My son learned that, and he lives by that. My son is a giver. He is has such a free spirit. He's given away vehicles to people that need it. Hey, Jenny, he's given away money to people that he's bought things. He's paid light bills and house payments for people that were struggling, and God gives it back. God's blessed us. Here I am, 70 years old, just come through cancer. We live in a nice home. We got food. We got clothes. We got everything we need. Have no big debt. We live off of Social Security, but God sends in what we need every day. Because we've learned we had chances to compromise, and this is how the devil always does it. Go ahead and be religious and do your religious. Just don't start this stuff of sacrificing and giving all this money to the church, because you know your money's tight. You need to keep that extra $100. You need to keep that faith promise. Those missionaries don't need as much as you do because you're old and you've just got a fixed income. Don't you give that. It's going to hurt you. And I watch God every time make a liar out of the devil. Some of you still haven't learned to give. You're still in that legalistic 10% and that's it. Some of you ain't got there yet. Some of you been saved a long time and you ain't even started tithing yet. And you wonder why God don't bless you. How can God bless you when you're in disobedience? Oh, my soul, we've got so far away from where I was going. But God, somebody needed this morning. Now, by the time other people join and watch this later, they're going to be madder than blazes. I'll lose some followers today, probably. Verse 25. And Moses said, thou must give us also sacrifices and burnt offerings, that we may sacrifice the Lord. He said, I'm not going just with the family. We're going to take our stuff. We're going to take our cattle, because we cannot go out there and not make a sacrifice to God. Verse 26. So our cattle shall go with us. There shall not be a hoof left behind, not even a calf. We're taking everything. For there must we take to serve the Lord our God. We know not with what we must serve the Lord until we come hither. We don't know what God's going to ask of us till we get to the wilderness, so we're taking everything. God may want it all, and if he wants it all, we're going to give it all. We're leaving nothing behind in Egypt. We're going to the wilderness, and everything on four legs is going with us. Verse 27. And the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let him go. So verse 28 and 29 is the end of the chapter. And Pharaoh said unto him, get thee from me, take heed to thyself, see my face no more, for in this day thou seest my face, thou shalt not die, or thou shalt die. If you come back here again, I'm not going to see you. If you come back here again, you're going to die. And Moses says, thou hast spoken well, because I will see thy face again no more. And that's the end of chapter 10. When we come back Monday, if Jesus hadn't come, we're still alive, and some of you still have access to the internet Monday because of the ice storm, I'll be back on Monday, and we start chapter 11, which deals with the final plague, which is God takes the firstborn of every house. Moses doesn't see Pharaoh again. And the next time this thing takes place in chapter 11, there's going to be a cry in Egypt like has never been heard, even in Pharaoh's house. And Pharaoh is going to see the hand of God, and he's going to see Jehovah God finally get Pharaoh so angry and so hard-hearted that Pharaoh is going to drive Israel out of Egypt. Now, I'm not apologizing for what I preached this morning, and I know it hurts. You're right, Darlene. It does hurt. Sometimes we got to have our toes stepped on. But I'm going to tell you this morning, one of the greatest tricks, listen to me, it's 8 minutes till, I'm going off here. One of the biggest tricks of Satan with a Christian, if he can't get you to totally get out of church and not serve God at all, he will try to get you to compromise. He'll get you to go to church, but just don't go too far. Go ahead and do your religious stuff, just don't turn Egypt loose. You and your wife go ahead and go to church, but don't make your kids go. Let them go to the ball game. Let them go to the party. Let them go to the dance. Don't make them go to youth night. Don't make them go to Sunday school. You go ahead and do what you got to do because you done lived your life, but let them sow their wild seeds. Let them sow their wild oats. Don't make them. You go ahead and don't you make your kids. You're going to turn them against God. Yeah, you will. They won't even want to be around God if you keep God away from them when they're young. You raise up a child when he's young in the ways of the Lord. When he's old, he won't depart. And then he says, finally, you go ahead and you going out yonder, but this stuff of sacrificing, don't you start getting all fanatical about giving, because you know you really need that new four-wheeler. You need that new side-by-side. You know your wife wants that new car. You've been wanting to get her that diamond brooch. You know. Don't give that money to the church. They don't need it. I'm going to tell you something. God bought us and paid for us with the blood of his darling son. The least we can do is to give ourselves back to him. He owns everything. He said every good and perfect gift comes from God. Everything we got comes from God. I work for mine. Yeah, but if God don't give you strength and grace and breath to breathe, you ain't going to work. God can take all that away from you. I know. One day I'm happy, carefree, nothing's wrong. And the next day I'm looking cancer, stage 4 at the face with a year to live. With a year to live. Your whole life can be turned upside down. God don't owe you nothing, but you owe God everything. And God could have asked for 90%, but God just asked for a tithe. And God asked for an offering. And He's not trying to get you to give so He can deplete you of your resources. He's trying to teach you to give, because in your giving, oh, shut up, phone. He's trying to teach you to give, because in your giving, He's going to be able to bless you. God's not trying to take everything you got. God's trying to give you everything He's got. Do you understand what I'm saying? People look at this so wrong. Well, God just wants everything I got. You see how the devil's fighting when I get on money? You think the devil wants me to say this? No. 3 times a phone call back to back, 3 different numbers. That don't happen. Satan don't want you to hear this. Satan tries to tell you, you don't need to give all this to God. You're giving all your money away, and the church don't need all that. God's not trying to take everything you got. God's trying to get you in a position so He can give you everything He's got. But God can't pour out the windows of heaven if you shut Him up. He says, give and see if I won't open up the windows of heaven and pour out a blessing that you can't contain. But if you rob God, you shut up the heavens, not God, you do. When you give, you unloose and unleash the giving and the blessings of God. Some of you hadn't learned that, and you're never going to be what God wants you to be until you learn. I don't know why God got me off on this. I have no idea. I have no clue. But I know you better mind God, and you better mind God in the area of sacrificing. Until you learn to sacrificially give, you never give. Until you learn to give that which you do not have to that which God wants you to give to, so God can give you back more than you need. You'll never understand what it is to live the Christian life. I got to get off here. Hey, listen, please do this today. Please be safe this weekend. If you're in the eye of the storm, in the path of the storm, please be safe. I pray that you stay warm, stay safe. Don't get out and have a wreck. We need you to be around for many more years. We love you. Praying for you. I'll be praying for you this weekend. God's given us a little break for some reason here in East Tennessee. Looks like we're going to not hit the storm like they thought we were. We're probably just going to have nothing but rain, maybe a few flakes, maybe a little bit of snow, but nothing major is going to be too warm for us. So if we get anything, it's going to be mainly rain. So I thank God. I didn't want to miss church Sunday, so we'll get to go to church probably. But I love you guys. I'll be back maybe tomorrow, see how the weekend goes. I may check on you guys, come on with a short podcast. But we'll be back Monday. We'll start in chapter 11. I love you guys. Y'all are such a blessing. Have a good day. We'll see you Monday, Lord willing. God bless.